February 23rd, 1945. A barren volcanic mountain rises from a torn and smoking island in the middle of the Pacific. The ground is black ash, the air smells of sulfur and cordite, and men are dying by the hundreds in every direction. And then, 6 Marines reach the summit of a place called Mount Suribachi, plant a steel pole into the smoldering earth, and raise an American flag. Joe Rosenthal, an Associated Press photographer, presses his shutter. What he captures in that fraction of a second will become the most reproduced photograph in human history. A postage stamp, a bronze monument, an icon so powerful that even people who cannot name a single battle of the Pacific War have seen it and felt something they cannot quite name. But here is what that photograph does not show you. It does not show the 6,821 Americans who will never leave this island alive. It does not show the nearly 21,000 Japanese defenders entombed inside it, in tunnels, in caves, in reinforced concrete bunkers bored 75 feet into volcanic rock, fighting, as they have been ordered to the absolute last breath. It does not show the 36 days of combat that will push men far past the outer limits of what human beings are supposed to be capable of enduring. 3 of the 6 men in that photograph will be dead before the battle ends. And that is where this story really begins. Not with the flag, not with the monument, not with the image on the postage stamp. It begins on the beach, the night before, with men eating steak and eggs, the traditional pre-invasion meal, some of them writing letters home that they know might be the last words their families ever read. With sergeants cleaning weapons they have already cleaned 3 times. With young men staring at the black water and saying nothing at all, because there is nothing left to say. They know what is waiting for them. Or they think they do. They are wrong. The landing craft hit the beach at 09:02 on February 19, 1945. For a few minutes, a very few minutes, it almost seems manageable. The naval gunfire has lifted. The pre-invasion airstrikes have ended. The beach is quiet. Some Marines step off their ramps and think, maybe the bombardment worked. Maybe this is going to be the one that goes to plan. The first problem arrives before a single shot is fired. The beach is not sand in any conventional sense. It is black volcanic ash, loose, deep, and utterly untrafficable. Men sink to their ankles with every step. Tracked vehicles bog down. Wheeled vehicles are useless within seconds of touching shore. Men who are trained to get off the beach fast, to move into cover before the defenders find their range, find themselves churning at a desperate trudge, legs pumping, going nowhere. The second problem is the terrace, a steep embankment of loose volcanic ash rising 6 to 15 feet behind the waterline. Climbing it under a full combat load is exhausting, and beyond it the ground opens flat and featureless, utterly exposed, with almost nowhere to shelter. Suribachi had designed this precisely. He had ordered his men to wait. Let the Americans come ashore. Let as many as possible crowd onto that narrow strip of black beach. Then open everything all at once. At approximately 09:30, everything opens. Mortar shells begin dropping at a rate that survivors will later describe as incomprehensible. Not the sound of individual explosions, but of a continuous rolling thunder that never quite stops. Artillery opens from the high ground to the north. Machine guns find their pre-registered arcs of fire. Pillboxes that survived 74 days of aerial bombardment and naval gunfire emerge from camouflage and begin pouring fire into the packed mass of men who have nowhere to go. In the first hour, American casualties approach 500 men. Men who are walking upright one second are simply gone the next. Navy corpsmen race between bodies, making calculations no human being should ever have to make. Who can be saved with what is in this bag, and who cannot? Officers scream orders that are swallowed whole by the noise. Wounded men try to crawl back toward the water and find it offers no safety. Mortar rounds are falling there too. The sea behind the beach turns red. And yet, the Marines do not stop. They cannot stop. More landing craft are coming in behind them. The beach is filling up faster than men can push off it, which means that men who stop moving die in greater concentrations than men who go forward. Forward is the only direction that makes any tactical sense, even though forward means walking directly into the most concentrated defensive system the United States military has ever encountered. And so, they go forward. Sergeant John Basilone goes ashore in the first waves with the 27th Marines. He is 38 years old and already a legend. The Medal of Honor he won at Guadalcanal in 1942 made him a national figure, a face on war bond posters, a hero on tour. He could have stayed home. He could have spent the war selling war bonds and shaking hands and sleeping in a bed. He insisted on coming back. His fellow Marines are glad to have him. The kind of man who earns the Medal of Honor at Guadalcanal is exactly the kind of man you want beside you going into the worst fight of your life. And Basilone, on the beach at Iwo Jima, does what he always did. He leads from the front. He rallies Marines who are pinned down and frozen. He guides a column of Sherman tanks through a minefield under direct fire, on foot, personally identifying gaps while rounds land around him. He moves to a Japanese blockhouse that has his men pinned and clears it, nearly alone, at close range. He is killed by mortar fire sometime before noon. He is 38 years old. He has been on the island for less than 3 hours. The Marines around him absorb it, the way men in combat absorb things, quickly, incompletely, filing it somewhere they will not open until much later, if ever, and keep moving. Because by nightfall, roughly 30,000 Marines are ashore. American casualties for the first day are approximately 2,400. It is the bloodiest single day in the history of the Marine Corps. And the Japanese defensive system has barely been scratched. Private First Class Jacqueline Lucas is 17 years old. He lied about his age to enlist, was sent to a non-combat post, and stowed away on a troop ship to get to the front. He is not supposed to be here at all. On February 20th, day 2, Lucas is moving through a trench with 3 other Marines when 2 Japanese grenades land among them. There is no time to throw them back. Lucas does not hesitate. He throws himself onto both grenades, pulls them beneath his body, and absorbs the blasts. Both explode. Lucas survives, barely, after surgeries that will recover more than 200 pieces of metal from his body over the months that follow. He is awarded the Medal of Honor. At 17, he becomes the youngest American recipient of that decoration in the Second World War. His story is extraordinary, and on Iwo Jima, it is not unusual. The Medal of Honor will be awarded 27 times during this battle, more than for any other single engagement in American military history. More than a third of all Marine Medals of Honor from the entire Second World War earned on one island in 5 weeks. That number is not a testament to the particular heroism of one generation. It is a measure of what the tactical situation on Iwo Jima routinely demanded of ordinary men on ordinary days in a fight that offered no ordinary moments. The 28th Marines are assigned to take Mount Suribachi, the extinct volcano at the island's southern tip that rises 556 feet above the beach and gives Japanese observers a direct line of sight over every yard of American-held ground. As long as it stands, the men below are being watched and targeted from above. The fight up Suribachi's slopes is claustrophobic and savage in a way that open ground fighting is not. The mountain is honeycombed with caves and firing positions cut directly into the rock. There is no conventional front line. Defenders are above, below, and alongside the Marines trying to climb. Flamethrower teams burn out positions one by one. Demolition men blast cave entrances shut. The fight is measured in yards, then feet, then inches. On February 23rd, Day 5. A patrol of 40 men reaches the summit. They find a length of pipe, attach a small flag someone has carried in a pack, and plant it in the volcanic rock. Below, on the beach and on the ships offshore, thousands of men see it. The sound that erupts is unlike anything most of them have ever heard. Not exactly a cheer, but a roar. A release of something that has been compressing in men's chests since the moment the ramps went down. Ships sound their horns. Generals weep. Secretary of the Navy James Forrestal, watching from a command vessel, turns to General Holland Smith and says, "Holland, the raising of that flag means a Marine Corps for the next 500 years." A larger flag is brought to the summit later that day. Joe Rosenthal is there with his camera. 6 Marines position themselves around the pole. The shutter clicks. The photograph is transmitted within hours. By the next morning, it is on the front page of virtually every newspaper in America. The response is immediate and visceral. The triangular composition, the straining bodies, the flag tilting against the Pacific sky. It is the image of the war. It is the image of something larger than the war. Sergeant Michael Strank, the experienced NCO who organized the flag raising, the professional Marine who had steadied the younger men throughout the climb, is killed by mortar fire 3 days after the photograph is taken. He is 25 years old. Corporal Harlan Block, whose father will insist for years, correctly as it eventually emerges, that his son is one of the men in the photograph, is killed the same day as Strank. He is 21. Private First Class Franklin Sousley, from Hilltop, Kentucky, is killed 2 weeks later as the battle enters its final phase. He is 19 years old. 3 of the 6 men in the most famous photograph of the war, dead before it ends. Their names are not on the monument in Arlington. You have to look them up, and you should. The Marines who fight on Iwo Jima are, on average, 19 years old. Many grew up during the Depression, in houses where money was a constant anxiety and the future was not something you planned too far ahead. Some have combat experience from earlier landings, Tarawa, Saipan, Peleliu, and arrived carrying things that no amount of leave ever quite washes off. Others are on their first operation and are learning everything at once, in the worst possible classroom, at the worst possible speed. They come from everywhere: farms in Iowa, tenements in Brooklyn, small towns in Alabama, fishing ports in Maine. They are black and white and Latino and Native American and Japanese American. There are Nisei interpreters among the support units, men whose families are in internment camps back home, serving the country that interned them. The Marine Corps of 1945 is a cross-section of America at its most contradictory and most capable. They write letters when they can. The letters are censored. No operational details, no place names, sometimes whole paragraphs blacked out. What gets through is ordinary. "I am well. I think about you." One corpsman writes to his mother that the sunsets over the Pacific are beautiful, which is true, even here, even now. He does not write about what he sees during the day. He does not know how. At night, the Japanese launch probing attacks. Small groups moving through the darkness, feeling for gaps in the American line. The Marines sleep in shifts. The volcanic ground is warm beneath them, sometimes almost hot, because of the geothermal activity still present in the island's rock. The smell of sulfur is constant. Combined with the smell of decomposition and the warmth rising through the earth, men describe the experience of sleeping on Iwo Jima as something close to sleeping inside a nightmare. Not metaphorically, but as a physical sensation, an environment that is wrong in ways the body registers before the mind can articulate them. And yet every morning they get up, they eat, they check their weapons, and they go forward again. That is what resists easy explanation about Iwo Jima. The Marines did not advance because they were unafraid. They advanced because they were afraid and went anyway, every single day, for 36 days. Because the man beside them was going, and it was unthinkable to let him go alone. The main Japanese defensive belt runs across the northern 2/3 of the island. The Marines call one section of it the meat grinder. 3 interlocking positions: Hill 382, the highest point on the northern plateau; Turkey Knob, a rocky outcrop bristling with concealed artillery; and the amphitheater, a natural depression ringed on three sides with firing positions that creates, with cold, geometric precision, a perfect killing ground for anything that enters it. Attacking any one of these positions draws fire from the other two. There are no clean approaches. Kuribayashi's engineers spent months making certain of that. The 4th Marine Division is assigned the meat grinder. They will assault it, pull back, regroup, and assault it again. And again. Days when the entire division gains 50 yards are not unusual. Days when it gains nothing happen too. What combat looks like here by late February is this: artillery preparation at first light. Then, infantry forward, supported by Sherman tanks when the terrain allows and the minefields have been cleared enough to risk it. Advance by yards. Reach a ridge. Take fire from 3 directions at once. Men dig in, or try to, in volcanic ash that collapses the moment you shape it. Flamethrower teams burn out pillboxes. Demolition men seal tunnel entrances. And when a position is finally taken, the Marines discover that the tunnels connect underground to other positions, that defenders have simply withdrawn through the rock and will fight from somewhere else tomorrow. The ground itself seems to be fighting back. Replacements arrive, young men flown forward to fill the holes in depleted units, and are killed before their sergeants learn their names. Veteran NCOs who have survived 2 years of Pacific combat are cut down by mortar rounds on ground that should have been secured days ago. Officers are killed by snipers in positions nobody had found. One Marine, recovering from a wound at a field aid station on the beach, asks a corpsman how the battle is going. The corpsman thinks about it for a moment. Then he says, "We're winning, I think. It's hard to tell." That is Iwo Jima in the middle weeks. You cannot see far enough ahead to know if what you are doing is working. You can only see the next ridge, the next pillbox, the next man down. By early March, the Americans hold the southern 2/3 of the island. The airfields are operational. Crippled B-29s begin making emergency landings within days of their capture, the strategic rationale for the battle being validated in real time, one damaged aircraft at a time. But the battle is not over. Kuribayashi has pulled what remains of his force into the island's northwestern corner, a maze of rocky ravines and ridges that the Marines call the Gorge. The tunnel network here runs at its greatest depth. The defensive positions are at their most carefully prepared. And Kuribayashi still commands somewhere between 1,500 and 2,000 men, reduced from 21,000, but fighting with exactly the same ferocity as the first hour of D-Day. The 5th Marine Division is given the Gorge. Their daily casualty figures in this sector are devastating even by Iwo Jima's standards. Officers with months of Pacific combat experience look at the terrain and struggle to identify approaches that don't simply mean sending men into machine gun fire and hoping enough survive to make progress. The answer, as everywhere on this island, is persistence. Flamethrower tanks approach pillboxes under infantry cover and pump burning fuel through apertures built for machine guns. Demolition teams seal tunnel entrances with explosives, cutting off the underground repositioning that has made Kuribayashi's defense so relentlessly maddening. Every position is cleared at close range, with rifles and grenades and flamethrowers and, often enough, with bayonets. It takes 2 weeks. Somewhere beneath the northern plateau, Kuribayashi continues sending radio messages to Tokyo. His reports are spare and factual. He does not ask for help that cannot come. He does not express despair. On March 16th, he transmits what will be one of his final formal communications. His force is reduced, ammunition is running low, but they will continue to fight. Tokyo responds by promoting him to full general. The promotion cannot cross the water. It reaches him by radio, in a tunnel, on an island that is almost entirely lost. In the early hours of March 26th, 36 days after D-Day, approximately 300 Japanese soldiers emerge from the northwestern positions and launch a final attack on the American rear area near the beach. They strike an encampment of Army Air Forces personnel, airmen, not frontline infantry, who fight back with pistols, carbines, whatever they can find in the darkness. The fighting is desperate and very close. Marine officers, some of them pilots, not infantrymen, hold the position until relief arrives. By the time it is over, nearly 100 Americans are dead, men who had survived the missions over Japan, killed on an island that was supposed to be secured weeks ago. More than 200 Japanese soldiers die in the attack. Kuribayashi is believed to have led this final charge himself. His body is never definitively identified. He simply disappears into the volcanic rock of the island he defended for 36 days, as if the earth that had always fought on his side finally reclaimed him. Iwo Jima is declared secured on March 26, 1945. Mopping up operations continue for months. The last known Japanese survivors on the island, 2 men, cut off from all news, unaware the war is over, will not emerge until January 1949. Nearly 4 years after the battle ends. They had been living in the tunnel network, in the dark, fighting a battle that the world had moved on from long ago. The 3 surviving flag raisers are brought home and made the faces of a war bond drive that will raise billions of dollars. For Sergeant Rene Gagnon, the fame is something he manages. For Navy Corpsman John Bradley, it becomes something he quietly refuses. He will spend the rest of his life declining to discuss what he saw on Iwo Jima, and his son will spend years after Bradley's death piecing together the story from what his father never said. For Private Ira Hayes, a Pima Native American from the Gila River Reservation in Arizona, the photograph becomes something close to a sentence. He is pulled from the combat he understood and placed into a world of press conferences and ceremonies and patriotic performances that feel, to him, like an elaborate lie, a gleaming symbol built over a reality he cannot stop seeing every time he closes his eyes. He drinks. He is arrested dozens of times. He dies in 1955, face down in a field near his home on the reservation, 32 years old. Johnny Cash will write a song about him. It will not be enough. The men who came home from Iwo Jima mostly did not talk about it. Not to their wives, not to their children, not to each other in any sustained or therapeutic way. That language and that framework did not really exist yet in 1945. They went home and got jobs and started families and mowed their lawns on Saturday mornings and carried Iwo Jima inside them like a stone in the chest, something that never quite dissolved and never quite went away. One veteran, interviewed decades later, was asked what he remembered most clearly about the battle. He thought about it for a long time. Then he said, "The sound. It never really stopped, and sometimes I can still hear it, just for a second, when everything else goes quiet." The numbers require a moment of stillness before you try to absorb them. In 36 days, the United States Marine Corps suffered approximately 26,000 casualties, killed, wounded, and missing. Of these, 6,821 are dead. It is the bloodiest single battle in the history of the Marine Corps. Casualty rates among assault troops, the men who went ashore in the first waves and fought north, approach 40%. In some units, they are higher. Of approximately 21,000 Japanese defenders, fewer than 1,100 survive to become prisoners of war. Most are captured only when they are too severely wounded to resist. The rest die on the island. The Japanese government has been conducting excavations on Iwo Jima for decades, recovering remains from the tunnel network. Even now, in the 2020s, bones are still being found in the darkness beneath the volcanic rock, where they have lain for 80 years. The strategic case, whether it was worth it, has been contested from the moment the island was declared secured and will probably never be settled cleanly. It rests substantially on one figure, Approximately 2,400 B-29 bombers made emergency landings on Iwo Jima's airfields in the remaining months of the war. Each aircraft carried a crew of 11. If even a fraction of those aircraft would have been lost at sea without the island, the arithmetic begins, in the cold language of strategy, to balance. Admiral Chester Nimitz found the words that have outlasted every strategic analysis ever written about this battle. He did not talk about airfields. He did not talk about loss rates or invasion timelines or the mathematics of necessity. He said, "Among the Marines who fought on Iwo Jima, uncommon valor was a common virtue." That is Iwo Jima. Not the flag, not the photograph, not the bronze monument in Arlington that freezes 6 men in one moment of one day of 36. It is the 26,000 men who went in, the 6,821 who did not come out, the ones who did come out and spent the rest of their lives carrying the weight of it, in the quiet of Saturday mornings, in the sound they still heard when everything else went silent. 6,821 Americans, nearly 20,000 Japanese, all of them somebody's son, all of them young, all of them on 8 square miles of black volcanic rock in the middle of the Pacific Ocean in the winter of 1945, doing what they had been sent to do. The island is still there. No civilians live on it. The tunnels are still there, 11 miles of them, sealed, running deep through the volcanic rock. The beaches are still black. The summit of Suribachi still looks out over the same gray stretch of Pacific that the Marines saw from their landing craft on the morning of February 19, 1945, when the ramps went down and the world changed, for all of them, irrevocably, forever. If you're still here, you are the kind of person who needs more naval history in their lives. Hit subscribe.